Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how you can do all the things that you need to do for chi-squared and I'll show you ANOVA, even though for any ANOVA question I'm going to give you the output and just ask that you use that output to answer the question, not actually do it in StatCrunch. I'll still show you how it would be done in StatCrunch just in case you need to use it further on in your career. Okay, so first is the chi-square stuff. So here, this is the first your turn of lesson 10, okay? And here I ask you to find the expected cell counts and calculate the statistic. Now, I want you to do this by hand and show your work, not by plugging it into StatCrunch, but this is a nice example that I'll use to actually do a hypothesis test in StatCrunch. Okay, so it'll calculate the expected counts, the test statistic, the p-value, so on and so forth. So the biggest question or the biggest thing that you need to do here is enter this table correctly into StatCrunch. So I'll go to StatCrunch here, okay, and you enter a contingency table into StatCrunch just like you see it right here. Okay, so in the first column, I'm going to call this column row labels. Okay, just for fun. The second column is this second column, so I'll call it Democrat, and the third I'll call Republican. Okay, and so then in the row labels you put just what you have there, introvert and extrovert. Please forgive me if I spell things incorrect. And then in these four spaces you put the numbers. The numbers were 3, 7, 6, and 4. Okay, so you enter the contingency table just like you see it right here. Okay, and so to do the statistics, you're going to go to Stat. Right? You have a bunch of options here. You want to go or hover over Tables. Okay, so we're working with a table, so we want to go to Tables, Contingency Table, and we have Summary Data. Okay, so don't click with data, we have summary data. So then when you click that, it opens up another pop-up window. It first asks you to select the columns, and my columns are Democrat and Republican. Don't choose the row labels one, okay, because that's down here in the next step. It asks you for the row labels, and so the row labels are in the column called row labels. All right. So then we come down, there are no column labels, okay? We don't want to group by, but we do want to display the expected counts. So I want you to click on expected count, make sure it turns blue. Right? You can shift click multiple things to see them, okay? But all that we want are the expected counts. So make sure the expected count is blue. Down here, it asks for what type of hypothesis test you want to do. We want to do the chi-square test for independence, okay? And it's the one that's already shaded in, okay? So you don't need to click anything there. We don't want to do any sort of confidence interval down here, right? And so you just leave that go, and you click compute, right? And you get this, okay? Here's a key to the table, right? The actual counts are there, right? And below them in parentheses are the expected counts. So you'll see after you, hopefully you've done that first your turn and you found the expected counts are 4.5, 5.5, 4.5, and 5.5. Okay, so there are the expected counts. And then you go down here, chi-square test. Okay, it gives you the degrees of freedom. This is the test statistic value, 1.818, and then the p-value, 0.1775. Okay, and so that's how you would do any chi-square test in StatCrunch. Now, next, let's talk about how you would perform an ANOVA. Again, I will give you all the information that you need in order to do an ANOVA, and you won't have to put anything in here, but if you did, how would you do it? So I'll call this thing group 1, the second one group 2, and the third group 3. Okay, so I have 3 groups, and then I'm just going to give some random numbers. And again, my dog is in the background making noise. I'm sorry for that. So I'm just putting random numbers in here. Okay, they would simulate samples from each group. Okay, maybe you can think of group 1, group 2, and group 3 as freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, and this is some measurement on each group. Okay, so now I have 3 groups, and I took the same number from each of them. Now that doesn't necessarily need to happen, but I did that. Okay, so they each have 11 observations, right? And I want to compare, or I want to see if the 3 groups are the same, right? And so I would go to Stat again, and then down here there is ANOVA, and we are doing a one-way ANOVA. Okay, one-way ANOVA. So which are the columns that I want? I want all of them. So I shift click, okay? And if you hover over them, there's a little box that comes up that says select more than one with blah, okay? So you can use those to help you. And you come down to options. It says here, do you want to compute Tukey's HSD, which if you watched the lesson 11 videos, you saw I talked about Tukey's HSD, so we'll say yes. Okay, we want to do that. That's going to tell us which groups are different. Remember, ANOVA tells you that there is a difference. Tukey's HSD will tell you which are different. All right, and then down here, it asks you for a bunch of options here. Okay, and there are QQ plots, so on and so forth. We won't choose any of these just for now. And so I'll click compute. And so you'll see here that what we're going to work with is what's called the ANOVA table. Okay, and I talked through how to read this ANOVA table before. Okay, and then down here are the Tukey's HSD results. Okay, and so you'll see group 1, so this is group 1 to compare to group 2 and group 3, right? And so you'll see that group 1 is not different than group 2, but is different than group 3, right? And group 2 is not different than group 3. Okay, so there's how you would do an ANOVA. So hopefully that is all of the technology sort of information that you need to get through these last 2 lessons.